Now that you have gone ahead and adjusted your forecast values going forward in your projections in your scenario, now we can start playing around with a feature that we call APAR management in Dryrun, cash flow management on a transaction level that you're able to do directly from Dryrun without having to go back to your accounting software. One thing to point out that is very important is that everything that you do in Dryrun is a result of a one-way sync, meaning that you're able to use Dryrun as a whiteboard, make any changes whatsoever to your accounts and your items, and then that will not write back ever to your accounting software. So you don't have to worry about making any changes and then it affecting your file in QBO 0 or whatever it may be. The one thing that is important to note as well is that when you sync again and your connection picks up any changes, you will see any updates from your accounting software back in Dryrun. So you definitely don't have to worry if you make any changes here in Dryrun. But let's take a look here at our cash in and our cash out section. Right beside the little right underneath the little summary that you have here, you will see a list of items. This is what we call them in Dryrun. This is a list of open or overdue invoices in the cash in section and a list of open or overdue bills in the cash out section. How do you know that they're overdue? You will see that little red dot. That's essentially what that means. White dot means open, meaning that you have invoices that have been entered into your QBO file, for instance, and they are still due. In the future, you're expecting payment. Everything that we map in Dryrun for your APAR is based on a due date, meaning that that is how we're entering the information. That's how we're mapping it. If you look at this particular example, we have invoice 2650 over here that was due on January 1st. That is how we're mapping it. And that is why you see that little 01. The numbers that you see right beside each one of those invoices are its due date. Now, we know that this particular invoice was not paid on time. That is why it's marked as overdue. But we also know that, we've talked to this particular client and we know that it will be paid on March 3rd. So we can go ahead and add what we call an expected date when you're expecting the actual payment to come in. We go ahead and save, and you will notice that that particular invoice moved from January over here to March 3rd. And you will notice a little orange dot, and that just means that you have changed that expected date. So that's how easy it is to manage individual invoices directly here in Dryrun. Now, there are a few ways that you can make this a little bit more efficient and easier on you as well. The first one is we do have the ability of grouping these items into grouping them by customer or vendor view. Sorry. When you go into each one of your sections settings over here, you will see a little area that we call items. Now you have the ability of sorting your items into different criteria. You can show or hide the number of items that you see. And you can also display the number by transaction number instead of customer vendor view. So instead of seeing Atlantic Inc., you would see invoice number 2650. The other thing that we're able to do is, as I mentioned, being able to group items by customer vendor. When we do this, what happens is essentially if you have multiple invoices or multiple bills that belong to the same customer or the same vendor, they will be grouped together. And then it will allow you to make changes to that entire group a lot easier. If you click in any of those groupings, as you see here in April for Ace Limited, it will open up what we call our list view. The list view essentially is a nice way of having all of the transactional data sorted into a nice little list that you can use to manage some of those expected dates a lot easier. In this instance, we have those two invoices. We can go ahead and select both of them and make the same move that we did before, but directly from here in the list view. So say instead of April 1st, we know that these will be paid on May 5th. So we go ahead and save that, and those invoices will now be moved to May. So that's how you use the ability to group invoices and bills into customer vendor and moving the expected date for the entire customer. Now you can also make those sorts of changes and movements, once again, through a list view, but not by groupings. What you can do is click the list view, and we do have very many different ways that you can filter and group as well. So let's say you're looking at your cash in for all of your invoices for the next 6 months. You can go ahead and click apply, and you will see different criteria over here of how you can sort them. We will look at all of the overdue in the same way that we did all of those. You can go ahead and select the ones that you want and do the exact same thing that we did. We can move them, say, for an entire month in bulk. So that will just allow you to move all of those invoices that you had in bulk. So that is how easy it is to manage a lot of those invoices and bills on a transaction level in Dryrun. You can do so once again on a weekly view as well. If this is something that you're doing to manage your runway a little bit more closely and you want those accurate timings of all of your inflows and outflows in Dryrun. But hopefully that will allow you to have a really good starting point now that you have imported your data, you have the accurate accounts in each one of your sections, you have gone ahead and made adjustments to your forecast and you're confident with your projections going forward, and you have managed some of those outstanding open or overdue invoices and bills so that you know the accurate timing of your inflows and outflows once again. And after that, once you're done with all of those things in Dryrun, then you can start looking at what comes next. Now, what do I do with this information? And I can show you that in the next videos. Thank you.